going to start with CTV London.
Hi, Daryl Newcomb, CTV London. London is in the process of developing a licensing bylaw that would combat rent evictions, but it's estimated to cost about over $500,000 a year to to hire inspectors, administrative fees, costs like that. And the licensing fee will not cover all of that cost. If you're suggesting that there should be a requirement on municipalities to have this in place to receive federal funding, who should pay for that? Municipalities, or should the feds ante up?
Oh, the feds should absolutely step up. So that can be tied to the federal money that's being sent to provinces. So included in that federal money should be if municipalities need help to enforce this, then the federal government should absolutely step up to do it. And if they're already transferring money anyways, funds to support the building of affordable homes, there's already a pocket of funding. There's already an envelope of funding that can go towards the enforcement and the implementation of this. But we want to be clear. We don't want to see tenants live in constant fear that they're going to get kicked out of their homes. We don't want to see any more scenarios where big corporate landlords come in and kick out their tenants, renovate the suites, and then put them back on the market for double what they were before. That has got to end. We've got to build more homes that people can afford, but we also have to keep the homes that are affordable. And if we don't keep what's affordable, then this is a losing battle. And one of the ways we do that is by protecting tenants. So again, we want to be clear. We want to support and encourage municipalities to bring in laws that protect their tenants. The federal government should be there to provide the supports to achieve that. But that is very achievable. There's funding that's already going towards building affordable homes. A portion of that could be used to ensure that there's enforcement on these bylaws. But let us be clear. Tenants need to be protected against the corporate greed of corporate landlords. The Democrats are the only ones that are calling that out. The Liberals, Justin Trudeau, has failed to do anything about this. And Pierre Poilievre will never touch this. He wants to let corporations rip you off even more. He wants no rules, no protections for consumers, all the power in the hands of big corporations. That is wrong.
Okay, we're going to go to CBC London next.
Mr. Singh, the owners of this building, they did start renovating. They now say their plan is to build a much higher density apartment building on this property, like hundreds of units, which they say will benefit by adding housing stock. What do you say to that? I mean, that they're saying that this is, the owners are telling me that this isn't a rent eviction, that what they plan to do is add housing stock here by building a much higher density property here in the core, which is in the London plan, is what they're supposed to be doing, adding more housing stock close to downtown.
Right now, without tenant protection, we know that tenants are at the whims of these corporate landlords. We don't know if they're going to achieve the goals of ensuring that they're actually affordable. There's no real clear vision around how the tenants are being protected. And that's our problem. That right now, there's no clear protections for tenants. And there's no guarantees that tenants will actually have a place. We cannot have a scenario that in the interest of building more homes, people that have a home lose their home and have nowhere to go. That's clearly unfair. So what we're calling for are protections for tenants. We want to see tenants protected. And in a time when people are worried that there's nowhere else for them to go, it makes this protection even more important. So our message is very clear. If you're a corporate landlord, we want to make sure that in municipalities across this country, there are protections to prevent them from being rent evicted. If there's genuine landlords that are going to take care of their tenants, ensure that they have a home, that might be a different story. But we want to put in place protections so tenants are not rent evicted, they're not left high and dry. And so far, there has been no real protection for tenants. And they constantly live in this fear that one day they're going to get kicked out of their home and have nowhere to go.
You have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do. One thing I'm hearing from landlords is that some of these older buildings where they have long-term tenants that are paying below market rent aren't cash flowing enough for them to put money back into the buildings for expensive items like roof repairs, elevator repairs, window repairs, that they're in a jam, that they can't get enough with rent protection. They can't get enough money out of these buildings to put the money back in to get them safe. You've toured through this building. It's almost at an unsafe, I don't think you disagree that it's almost at an unsafe level of dilapidation. So what do you say to landlords that are saying, hey, Jagmeet, I can't afford at the rent controlled rates to cash flow enough money to put money back into these buildings to make them safe or bring them up to like a basic standard?
This actually describes the problem we have with our housing market. The housing market has been designed for rich investors to get rich. That's the lens through which all decisions are made. How do I make the most return on my investment? How do I make as much profit as possible? That is not in line with people having an affordable home. And that's why we push for the Renters Protection Fund. In many cases, buildings should be owned by not-for-profit organizations whose goal is to keep the rent affordable. It's not actually beneficial for society if all of housing is only about making the most profit possible. Then you have the scenario that we're in right now where rents are unaffordable, or people can't find a place to call home. That is because the rules have been written by liberals and conservatives, by Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre's parties. They've been the ones that have been in power. They've set up the rules to create a housing market, which is all about the bottom line. It's about who can make as much profit as possible. It's about making profit, and it's not about people finding a home. And the result of that is, if you look at how much it costs to buy a home and how much people are making, it's completely out of whack. But that is not a coincidence. That is by design. We got to change that design. The goal should be, let's make housing about people having a home. Let's make sure that we put in place rules to protect tenants, not the profits of big corporations. We want housing to be there for families. The goal for housing should be people have a roof over their head that's dignified and respectable. That's what we want. And that's what we have to work towards. If we don't, we're going to have a constant problem where people are losing their homes, nowhere else to live, unaffordable rents, unaffordable prices to buy. That is no way to live. And so we've got to change that. And that's what we're talking about today, changing the rules to put people as a priority, not the profits of big corporations.
Okay, we're going to go to the London Free Press next.
So I have a question. As you said, you mentioned Hamilton has already gone ahead and created a bylaw. London is on its way of creating one. I'm curious if there's a minimum standard that the NDP would enforce to say, like, not to say like any municipality can pass any bylaw that says it protects renters, but it doesn't really actually there. Are there any baselines that you would like to see in order to attach the funding from the federal government for housing into those bylaws? What would that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what Hamilton has set forward is a pretty decent standard for what tenant protection could look like, what protection for banning rent evictions could look like. So that would be a standard. There could be even additional protections in place, and we look to see other ideas as they come forward. But having at least the standard that Hamilton has put forward, I think, is a guideline. We look forward to seeing the way London will approach this problem. But really, let's be clear. If you live in a building and someone comes in with the guise of saying, I'm just trying to renovate this unit, and kicks you out and you have nowhere to go and you can't get back in, that's something we have to ban. We have to ban that practice, because what that is doing is it's resulting in the loss of hundreds of thousands of affordable homes. Under the Conservatives, when Pierre Poilievre was a minister in the Harper government, they oversaw the sell-off of 800,000 affordable homes in this way. They let 800,000 homes be sold off by big corporations, or bought by big corporations, and no longer affordable. Justin Trudeau's done the same thing. He's let hundreds of thousands of affordable homes be sold off to big corporations. If we continue to see this trend, we're never going to be able to build enough affordable homes for people. So we've got to keep what we have that's affordable. And a part of doing that is protecting tenants.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I understand as well that I guess what you're trying to achieve is flex the power of the federal government to get some action at the municipal level. But at the end of the day, it's the provinces who have the most power, I guess, when it comes to legislation and things like that. Does the NDP have a plan to, I guess, maybe not force, but get more action from the provincial government, which at the end of the day has the most power to, modify the laws in the province that protect renters?
Oh, absolutely. Great question. I mean, not only do we want to, I think we'd go as far as say we do want to force municipalities to have laws that protect their tenants if they're receiving federal money. Similarly, we want provinces to do the same thing. For too long, Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives, Justin Trudeau's Liberals, they have believed in a no strings attached. Give money to corporations, give money to provinces without any guarantees that they're actually going to achieve the goals. In some cases, you can expect provinces like BC, if they get federal money for healthcare, they're going to use it for healthcare. But in Ontario, we didn't see that. We saw Doug Ford use federal money to line the pockets of for-profit corporations, and that money didn't end up going to the care that it should have gone to. So that's why we want to see guarantees in all things. That if we're spending public who likes
All right,
feed,
everyone,
who likes
we're back. Alors, nous sommes de retour. Nous allons maintenant prendre des questions via Zoom. We will take questions on Zoom.